Being a chartered manager means that you are a specialist in that area, and it means you've got all the skills to do the job to the best of its ability.
You are seen as a leader, a true leader who has credentials behind the great work you've already been doing.
It's enhanced my understanding, it's enhanced my skill set, it's improved my mindset.
It makes all the difference.
This session is recorded and will be available on the CMI website and YouTube channel. Join the conversation by using the live chat box for your questions and comments. We'll answer as many as we can during the Q&A.
Good morning, everyone, and a really warm welcome to Leading the Pathway to Net Zero, Transforming Management and Leadership for a Sustainable Future. I'm Petra Wilton, Director of Policy at CMI, and it's a real pleasure to open today's event. And it is very timely, as worldwide politicians are discussing climate change at COP30. The net zero conversation, though, for employers is shifting firmly towards capability, competitiveness, and long-term business resilience. Sustainability is no longer a standalone environmental issue. It's increasingly a core business skill set. And that's the focus of today's CMI's latest Thought Leadership report, which we're delighted to be publishing this morning. Organisations tell us that the biggest challenge they face is not setting sustainability ambitions, but ensuring their managers have the clarity and confidence to deliver them in practice. Many managers are still seeking much clearer guidance on what sustainability means for their role and how they can drive meaningful change within their teams. And the wider labour market shows just how important this capability is becoming. Just a couple of days ago, I noticed the LinkedIn's latest green skills analysis. Green skilled workers are being hired at 47% higher rate than the global workforce average, and demand for these skills is rising twice as fast as the number of people gaining them. This is now a clear talent and productivity advantage for those organisations that are investing early. And that's why here at the CMI, we've developed a suite of sustainability and leadership management qualifications from level 3 all the way through to level 7, giving employers and managers practical pathways to embed sustainability in everyday management practice. So from first-line leaders through to senior executives, there's something there to help and support everyone. And today's event is how we build that capability, how leaders can translate sustainability from good intention through to a source of competitive strength and business advantage. And I'll be delighted to hand over very, very shortly to David Jones, who is the author of the report that was being published today, and he's going to take us through some highlights. And then we're going to move into a panel discussion with some fantastic experts led by Katie Kelly to explore what practical steps leaders can take to explore sustainability in their everyday management practices. And now I'm delighted to hand over to David Jones to talk through the report. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Petra. Welcome, everyone. So I'm David Jones. I'm Policy and Innovation Manager here at CMI, and I'm here to tell you more about our report, Leading the Pathway to Net Zero. So a couple of years in the making. I need to start by recognizing the work that has gone into this from colleagues across the organization, from the research teams through to marketing, who have got it looking really fantastic. In terms of research, we've carried out managers' voice polling on multiple occasions, and this is where we survey our members. We've done labour market insight via Lightcast. We've held a focus group, and we've had one-to-one conversations with managers and leaders. And this has given us some great data points which highlight a real need for managers and leaders to have an understanding of sustainability, and also the importance of skilled managers and leaders in sectors such as clean energy. So let's get into that research. 74% of managers who responded to a manager's voice poll this year told us that net zero is a priority for their organization. But 33% of them lack confidence in their organization's readiness to make the changes. This is a say-do gap. So that's the discrepancy between what organizations say they will do, their stated comments, and what they actually do. It's great that there is ambition for change, but this ambition is clashing with low confidence in delivery amongst management. It's something that has been evident for a number of years. We published a report Lean and Green back in 2009, where a key message was that managers recognized the importance of cutting emissions, but too few organizations were taking action. There needs to be a shift from viewing sustainability as a compliance issue to that of being a driver of innovation, reputation, and long-term value. Next. This reinforces the message from the previous slide that the problem isn't ambition, it's clarity. Our surveying found that 57% of managers in organizations with a net zero plan lack clarity on their own role. We're finding also that managers are asking for help. 8 in 10 managers agreed that they would benefit from having training on net zero and sustainability. 51% feel that they have not received enough support from their employer to integrate sustainability into their role. So these worrying findings come at a time when green jobs, including vital management roles, are proving to be amongst the most resilient pockets of the labour market. Next slide, please. The demand for management expertise is particularly striking. The total number of management jobs specifically incorporating green skills rose by 69% between 2015 and 2024. So this underscores the evolving nature of management roles, where sustainability is becoming integral to strategic planning. It highlights a critical shift. Sustainability is no longer a peripheral concern, but is becoming a core management function requiring dedicated leadership. I was interested to read also the LinkedIn Green Skills report yesterday and noticed this line: green skills are now core business skills. This upward trajectory also indicates a deepening integration of leadership roles within the green economy, as organizations increasingly recognize the need for strategic management to drive their sustainability agendas effectively. The absolute number of green jobs requiring management skills of some description has also surged by 37% over the last decade. But this transition is not just for large corporations. It requires a solution that scales for all organizations. SMEs face unique and substantial hurdles. While the carbon footprint of an individual SME might seem small, their collective impact is significant. They're responsible for between 43 and 53% of all UK business greenhouse gas emissions, according to the British Business Bank. And this means that the UK simply cannot achieve its legally binding net zero targets without their active participation. This growing demand is unfolding within a shifting geopolitical landscape. Even as political winds shift, as seen in the US, the green transition is becoming an entrenched feature of the UK's labour market, driven by opportunity and demand. Generational attitudes are also decisively moving away from fossil fuels, creating a cultural as well as an economic foundation for long-term change. Governments, regardless of their political leaning, will be reluctant to dismantle initiatives that are creating high-quality, future-proof jobs that are bringing prosperity to regions that have been in long-term decline. This data also serves as a fundamental reminder of the importance of sustainability leadership within each region of the UK. While not entirely decoupled from major economic shocks, underlying growth is strong. The data suggests that investing in sustainability leadership and green management skills is not just a response to current policy, but also a strategic necessity for long-term organisational and regional resilience as the UK transitions to a net zero economy. Next slide, please. To further refine our thinking, we held a focus group earlier this year with a number of industry experts. We wanted to explore how the net zero agenda is shaping organizational operations, strategy, and leadership capability across sectors. We explored the impact of the net zero transition on organizations' direction and day-to-day operations, the current state of management and leadership skills, and where gaps may exist in supporting the net zero transition effectively, as well as the role of sustainability leadership, including the opportunities and barriers to embedding it across organizations and sectors. You can see a number of the key quotes on screen, but there was a real focus on understanding the problem and the urgency. Leadership should set the vision and articulate why sustainability matters. Management and leadership is important, but sustainability should be embedded in culture. Everyone can be agents of change. Managers and leaders should be supporting workforce training to allow people to enact the change. So we've included some case studies in the report as we felt that it was really important to highlight areas of good practice. As the saying goes, what gets measured gets managed. A critical component of successful sustainability leadership is the commitment to measuring impact and tracking progress towards net zero. This goes beyond mandatory carbon reporting. We've looked at more detail about the work that two chartered managers are doing, Tony Stonebridge at Wix and Stephanie Palmer at Wienerberger, how they are enacting change within their organizations and some of the lessons they've learned on the way. Becoming a chartered manager is really valuable. 95% of managers agree that chartered manager status demonstrates the ability to use managerial skills to achieve organizational results. Each chartered manager boosts their business's revenue by £59,000 every year and by £294,000 over 5 years. Investing in core management and leadership is a critical driver of organizational success. CMI research shows that it yields significant returns, and conversely, poor management contributes significantly to the UK's productivity gap, as evidenced in some of our previous research. We've also included examples of good practice from Patagonia and Schneider Electric for you to read about. Patagonia's journey demonstrates how managers and leaders can be powerful agents for positive change, even if it means challenging conventional norms. They've recently released their 2025 impact report, and once again, it makes for fascinating reading, including a section on cultivating leadership, where they state at Patagonia, leadership isn't confined to titles or organizational charts. It's shared practice rooted in purpose, whether as someone is managing a store, mentoring a peer, leading a movement, or launching a product. We believe leadership is about showing up with courage, clarity, and care. Schneider Electric's success story demonstrates that a deep, unwavering commitment to sustainability stemming from its leadership, combined with robust, transparent reporting and collaborative value chain approach, yields substantial environmental improvements alongside strategic business advantages. We've concluded the report by making a series of recommendations for organisations, for government and policymakers, and for education providers. For organisations, they're based on practical actions organisations of all size can take. For government and policymakers, they're focused on recognising the importance of skilled managers and leaders in skills plans and strategies, as well as reducing some of the complexities and barriers businesses face. For education providers, we look at how training programs move beyond individual actions and equip managers with the strategic skills to drive business-focused sustainability initiatives related to innovation, efficiency, and competitive advantage. The goal must be to equip every manager with the right level of competence for their role, making sustainability a core pillar of professional development. Next slide, please. Based on the work we've done, we've launched a series of sustainability leadership qualifications, which Matt will tell you about in a little while he closes, but they're designed to support managers and leaders at all levels and all stages of their careers, from young first-line managers or team leaders through to senior leaders. Sustainability is most effectively embedded when leadership principles are part of the learning journey, whether through formal qualifications, modular training, or work-based learning. Incorporating these elements into existing provision would give learners the dual benefit of technical competence and the confidence to influence and to lead change. I really hope that you find the report useful. And now I'm going to hand over to Katie and our panel, who will bring the topic to life for you. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to Leading the Pathway to Net Zero. It's wonderful to see so many of you with us today. And as mentioned before, please do introduce yourself in the chat bar. We'd love to know where you work and what you would like to hear about today, and any questions that you have as well. As David mentioned, I'm Katie Kelly. I'm an associate partner at Argan & Co, where I focus on people-centered transformation. My work is about helping organisations embed the behaviours and culture and management capability, leadership capability that will bring transformation to life. And in recent years, much of my work has centred on making net zero delivery possible in practice as well. So it's brilliant to be here and share that experience and chat to the other panellists about that. I also chair the CMI London board. And for the past decade, I've worked with the CMI to champion professional leadership and management standards. So it's a privilege to combine my two kind of professional worlds to bring the conversation to everybody here today as we explore how managers can drive meaningful, sustainable change. So as mentioned by Petra and David, we all know that net zero is not a distant ambition. For one, it's a legally binding commitment for 2050, and every sector of the economy is already feeling the pressure to act. What today's new CMI research makes clear, though, is that to actually reach those commitments, the success of the transition hinges on people and managers and leaders. So all of us who translate strategy into daily decisions and actions, behaviours and measurable outcomes, we're the people who are going to make it stick. So with that, I'd like to welcome today's panel, and I am looking forward to the conversation. Welcome.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Shall we do a round of introductions before we get into the presentations? I will pick on Karen first. You're to my right.
Thank you very much. I'm an Associate Professor of Responsible Management and Leadership, and delighted to be here today because the suite of CMI accreditations is really important to our work at Oxford Brookes University, where our undergraduate, postgraduate courses are accredited by the CMI. It's a really important part of our commitment to experiential learning, the practical skills alongside academic learning and industry projects, and embedding sustainability into that experience, ensuring that our students are industry aligned with the skills that we are developing. And alongside CMI, we're also a signatory to PRIME, which is the Principles for Responsible Management Education, a UN-supported initiative, which is all about raising the profile of sustainability in business and management education. So it's really important to see the work of CMI in this space, helping us as educators to embed in our curriculum reviews, our module development, those skills that are most needed by employers, and keeping up to date, keeping this industry relevant. So the report has been very helpful indeed for informing us in that direction.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody want to volunteer to go next? Otherwise, I will pick on Jonathan.
Fantastic. Thank you, Katie, and good morning, everybody. A real pleasure to be here with you, marking the launch of this report. My name is Jonathan Oxley. I work as a senior manager in the net zero team of the CBI, slightly confusingly. The CBI is the Confederation of British Industry, and we work to effectively bridge the gap, or bridge the policy divide, as it were, between businesses and the government. So as far as net zero goes, of course, we have a whole range of different businesses, right from those who might be at the cutting edge of renewable energy and sustainability, and those who might be often regarded as being, somewhere in the middle to the back of the pack as far as energy and net zero goes and sustainability. That's often not the case, of course, because those businesses that you might associate with being further down the pack are actually working out how they can develop a more sustainable business model to move forward. And of course, we're all dependent upon energy and the products and goods and services that are provided as a result, which is all fantastic. So everybody wants their energy at the flick of a switch, but nobody wants to sort of have the penalty price, whatever you want to call it, associated with that. And the trick, I guess, is not just in the technology space. And I say that as somebody who is a scientist. Very often it's not the technology that actually is the issue as to how we bring about a cleaner, greener, more sustainable world. It's actually how we work with each other. And it's actually what I'd call, or many people would refer to as the soft skills, are actually the very hard things. So a lot of the technology exists for us to do what we need to do in a cleaner, greener way. But we actually need to work out how we collaborate as businesses, how we come together as individuals, and how we lead and shape the organizations that we need to deliver on that agenda. Now, whether those are businesses, which we work with extensively, or whether that's in governmental circles who set the policy ambition, both are equally true. And indeed, as we've already heard from Karen, within the world of academia, where we're looking to train people as to how they understand their role in helping to move forward the sustainable net zero agenda effectively. We all also, I guess, recognize that some of the political rhetoric around this has changed, as has already been referred to. But actually, what we're looking at here, certainly through a UK lens, but also an international lens, is about how we secure a better energy future. And that's what it's all about. And if we can help businesses to do that, and we can help government to set the policy, then by leading and shaping and managing that future as we move forward, then through initiatives such as that of the CMI to train those workers going forwards, that's going to make a big difference. And at the CBI, just to finish off, the CBI, we've worked extensively with the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit over the last few years, and we produce a report every year. The next one will be out in February, and that actually demonstrates the value of the economy, not just in terms of the business growth, which I think the previous year was 10.3% in the net zero area compared to about 0.3% in the rest of the economy. But also it demonstrates that those jobs are actually more productive jobs from the point of view of the UK economy. So it's not just about the net zero game, it's also about the economy. And those two are synonymous in terms of the opportunities for growth, not just for businesses, but for individuals and leaders, and also actually for the UK as a nation state.
Thank you, Jonathan. A couple of things I love there. So collaboration, you mentioned a couple of times, and I think you did as well, Karen, is going to be crucial to this. Everybody needs to rally round together. No one entity is going to solve net zero and reach there. So yeah, that I talk about that all of the time, and how we can help people collaborate better together. And as you say, this is a business need as well as an environmental need as well. So we all need to rally round to achieve those. Thank you very much. Marcus, do you mind going next?
Yeah, hello, I'm Marcus Astley. I'm the head of School of Business and Management at Bloomsbury Institute, which is a London-based business school. I manage our partnership with the CMI. I'm delighted to be here because I'm a big advocate of everything they do. All of our business degrees at Bloomsbury are co-accredited by the CMI, and from this year, your new strategic sustainability leadership qualification will be co-accredited to our successful graduates. So my focus is increasingly going to be on teaching about sustainability issues and their importance. There was a recent report by Kite Insights that surveyed over 7,000 employees worldwide. And one section of that survey asked respondents to assess their own levels of climate literacy and complete a quiz. 19% of them described themselves as very knowledgeable on climate issues, but then actually they scored lower in the quiz than any other respondents, including those who confessed they were not at all knowledgeable about climate issues. And that's, I think, a real concern, because if our teams of workers don't understand clearly the environmental challenges we face, how can they help businesses address them? Beyond developing climate literacy, I think firms need to set themselves clear sustainability goals, and a 2024 report by Pricewaterhouse found only 26 of the FTSE 100 have comprehensive, measurable and specific decarbonisation action plans. So firms also need to close the say-do gap that David referred to, even those that set out targets tend primarily to be addressing external stakeholders, particularly investors. But I think to create momentum, firms need to communicate the targets to their employees, engage them, and empower them to help achieving those goals. Sustainability goals then, for me, need to be embedded in the firm's KPIs and in its structure, and that includes pay. Whereas currently just 13 of the FTSE 100 link remuneration of their leaders to achieving sustainability metrics. So clear targets, transparently communicated and central to the operation of the firm, all of those will help close that say-do gap. On a more positive note, I also believe that sustainability is a big opportunity for firms to achieve competitive advantage. And a recent Deloitte survey on Gen Z and millennials found that 65 and 63% respectively would buy or pay more for a green product. So that sentiment amongst the younger generations indicates that green product market is growing. And in addition, coming back to that Kite survey I mentioned, of those surveyed, half of them had put some pressure on their employers to do something about the climate issue. So firms that embed sustainability into their organizational culture will have more energized workers serving a growing commercial market. Meanwhile, with the help of the CMI, my role is increasingly going to be to develop graduates who are not just ready for the world of work, but who are going to be climate champions and are going to be able to get stuck into driving some of these business sustainability initiatives.
Sorry, off mute. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you very much. Yes, it's definitely a talent issue as well. So people are going to want to work for organisations that put sustainability at the top of their agenda, and they're going to attract the best talent as a result, as well as doing good things for the environment and the economy, as we've already discussed. So it's something that's very close to my heart. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Martin.
Well, hello everybody. Thank you, Katie. I'm Martin. I'm Deputy Chief Exec at the Institute of Sustainability and Environmental Professionals. So we're the membership association for people who are leading on sustainability initiatives in organisations. We have members in all sectors of the economy, in about 125 countries. And I guess there are a few things that I want to pick up on. The first is that as sustainability professionals, partly their effectiveness is a result of the work that everybody else does, and therefore their ability to collaborate and work in partnership, not just with other organisations, but with actual other colleagues internally to help to articulate what's the change that needs to be driven in order to support an organisation to make the transformations that are needed to get on that trajectory to tackling climate change, so net zero, but also all the other things in terms of sustainability as well. So whether that's around the way in which we use materials, the way in which we are dealing with kind of resources like water, issues around modern slavery and labour standards. There's a whole kind of raft of things, biodiversity, nature. Really, really important. And I think from our perspective, we see the role of sustainability professionals as being, one is about value protection in organisations. So climate risks are growing faster than organisations' abilities and communities' abilities to adapt. So we're becoming less resilient, more vulnerable to things that we know are going to happen. So that's the first thing. Secondly, there's a huge opportunity. And Jonathan mentioned the kind of the business growth opportunities that come from sustainability. So it's helping to articulate what they are. And then it's around working across the workforce to embed this culture of change and transformation to drive to the future that we want. We developed, working with Deloitte, some tools on what we call the blueprint for green workforce transformation. Looking at different job families and how they need to changing the way in which they look at either the application of knowledge in a particular role, the skills that might be required, and also the behaviours. So kind of all of that coming together to say, okay, well, how do we start to move procurement in the right way? How do we look at the way in which we design our products and services to work in a world where we know it's going to be at 2 degrees warming by 2050, whatever happens this week in Belen, whatever we do in the UK, we know what's coming down the track. And unlocking that value, I think, is absolutely critical. What we see is 2 things. So one is a growing sense at a leadership level of tackling this ambition. What we see is that organisations see that sustainability adds value to their organisation. But we also see a failure to invest internally in the development of the skills and capability within the workforce to actually drive that change. So I think unpacking that is really important. And as Jonathan kind of rightly said, pretty much we have all the technical solutions that we need on this transition. We know how to generate clean power. We know how to distribute it. We know how to manufacture it. We know how to do all of these things. And so this is around how we reorganize our economy and reorganize our organizations to be able to deliver the technologies, the technological solutions that will get us to where we need to be. So this is all about people. It's about people doing things differently. And we're delighted to see this report because we know that our members want to work with your members in CMI to actually deliver on these solutions at a pace and a scale that is commensurate with the challenges that we face.
Thank you, Martin. All such brilliant points. And I won't rehash all of them, but from yours, Martin, in particular, stating the fact that we've got the tech, it's there, it's going to develop, people are getting used to adapting to tech, but it's really the people that are going to make that tech work to reach net zero. And we need to make sure that we're moulding the right people in the right way with the right behaviours, knowledge, skills, as you mentioned, to make best use of that technology to reach net zero as well, which is exactly what we're here to talk about today. So thank you so much to everybody for your introductory presentations. We've had a couple of questions submitted as part of the sign-up process, which I am going to start with. So thank you very much to those that went to the effort of submitting those ahead of time. And I'm just going to find them. We had one from Jackie. So what are the tangible actions that all managers should take on the path to sustainability? Does anybody want to tackle that first? And thank you to Jackie for the question. Yeah, Karen?
I think the basic starting point for all leaders, managers within organisations is to address the point that the CMI report has identified, been mentioned here, that over half of managers in organisations with a net zero plan still say they lack clarity on what they're expected to do. So becoming aware of that, finding out and thinking about how their individual role can contribute and looking for those opportunities to skill up and apply transferable skills to the technical baseline awareness that they hopefully have through organisational training programmes that enable baseline carbon literacy awareness. And that is really fundamental in terms of my work within academia at encouraging our graduates and our students on placements, internships, to be able to build the capabilities that are needed for the green transition. They are dependent largely upon the leaders that they're working with in organisations to be aware of those opportunities, to leverage those opportunities for the students to engage in that work. So it's starting with awareness raising, recognition that every job role, every function can contribute, and this is about mobilising everybody in the workforce, not just siloed teams.
Completely agree. And we mentioned there and earlier on in your introductory presentations about people being attracted to organisations that put sustainability at the forefront. Leaders need to role model that. It's not just about kind of new generations coming into the workforce that are asking about sustainability and using that as a measure as to whether or not they would like to join an organisation. Leaders need to walk the talk. I do a lot of work around leadership alignment and engagement, and it's been proven again and again that leaders role modeling any kind of change is one of the key indicators that it will land. So we need to make sure leaders are educated as well as doing the educating in what sustainability is and why it's important, and walking the talk essentially. So completely on board with that. Thank you. Yes, Jonathan.
I was just going to add, so I completely agree with all of that. I think the first and foremost, there are two first and foremost actions that any manager should take in this space is one, talk to other people. So what are their colleagues thinking? What are other organizations, their competitors and partners thinking and doing in this space? And the other is to stay curious. So stay curious, because we talk about sustainability as if it's sort of, there is a universal truth as to what sustainability is, and there's a single right answer that will dictate whether you're there or not. I mean that's clearly not true. It's ever more a process of being more sustainable, trying to move towards more sustainability, closer towards net zero, however you choose to define or interpret that. And so staying curious and finding out what others are doing and talking to others about this, looking at what Martin's organization ICEP are saying about this, looking at what CMI and some of the key elements that they articulate in terms of the things you might want to think about, whether or not you choose to sign up for the sort of leadership qualifications formally or not. Just staying curious and making sure you stay informed about what's going on in this space is really important.
Yes, exactly. Completely agree. It will be different tomorrow, next week, in 10 years' time. We need to keep up with advancements and stay curious, as you say. I really like that. Thank you.
Can I just add one point? I think what's really important is to understand what needs to change. So what is it that you're doing now that in the future will have to be done differently? I think that's about how you then engage with other people in the organization to find out when that change might be possible and what are the key ingredients. And this is where the work of managers really comes in to say, what are the key ingredients that need to be unlocked in order to, and brought together to actually deliver that change? So is it around finance? And it might be that actually our investment cycle is not at the point where we can change at the moment on this particular aspect. So I think it's kind of getting into a little bit more granularity about what needs to change and when it can be changed, and then starting to kind of focus and build those teams to deliver that change and solve some of these problems.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly. Yes, it needs to be an assessment of where we are now and where we need to be. People often get excited, and it's actually going to lead me on to my next question about the new latest shiny thing, and whether it's sustainability or it's AI, and we need to do that, but they don't know what point they're coming from. And that's really, really important to make sure we're putting the right actions in place to deliver whatever this new shiny thing is that's very important to organisations and the environment as well. Marcus, did you have anything to add before I move on to the next question?
No, I would certainly echo those sentiments from the last two speakers. I think doing things differently is key. Yeah. Possibly some of the strategies out there at the moment are reactive. I think we need to be more proactive and start to create real initiatives and innovative approaches to some of the problems there.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. So another pre-submitted question, which is very topical. It has to be included in every webinar or thought leadership paper or every conversation, it seems, that we have. So it's from Richard. And Richard asks, I'm very interested in the intersection between AI and sustainability and would welcome the panel's views on the topic. He says he's sure that AI can be used to help us be more sustainable, but this is also somewhat of a dichotomy, given that it takes more energy resources to power the AI. It's such an interesting argument, and therefore I wondered what the views of the panel were. Very thoughtful question. Thank you very much. I'll go to Martin first, maybe.
Yeah, sure. So great question, a really important topic of the moment. I mean, it's very, very clear that AI has a huge role to play in things like energy optimization. So whether that's the way in which we, and the capacity that we can actually put down our transmission network. I was speaking at an energy tech conference earlier this year, and I think somebody suggested that we could probably drive about 15% more of the power through our existing system than we do at the moment by using some of the smart technologies to understand temperature gradients on transmission lines. We can do far more, and the role of AI will be really important when it comes to more local networks and how we're going to start to swap power between electric vehicles and homes and the grid and all of that. So kind of really important there, but also just, I've seen it kind of deployed in, high precision cameras on the front of trains, looking at where there's potential ash dieback on the rail system, because that's a kind of a really big issue. So kind of technology has a massive role to play in sustainability, but it is energy hungry, it is water hungry, it's materially hungry as well. Yeah, I'm sat here looking at a screen. There's lots of kind of wires in the background, and that's a massive problem. And actually, that's one of the problems that isn't spoken about AI. So everybody talks about energy intensity, and if you look at some of the investments in computing energy improvement, so kind of they're actually kind of going quite well. So some of the chips that Google are using are kind of massively more less energy intensive as they used to be. So kind of more computing power for your semiconductor and processor. But the reality is that we're using a lot of AI for things that aren't actually that kind of valuable. That's probably a personal perspective, but also kind of this issue about water as well. But I think this whole digital technology, I mean, it's here and we've got to deal with it. And so it's really thinking about those solutions, about how we take the tech, how we ensure that we have the capacity to generate clean power, because that's going to be absolutely critical. But also then how we take some of the heat and kind of build that back into communities. It's kind of really weird thing. Somebody was having kind of processing power in their shed and being able to kind of heat their home. And people saw that on the BBC the other day. Kind of quite an interesting novel approach to different ways in which you can start to reframe problems and identify potential solutions. That this is about creativity as well. So yeah, it's a big topic. It's important. We can't put AI back in its box, I don't think. So we're going to have to kind of work and solve as best we can.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Yeah,
I love that everyone's putting their hand up, by the way. Very polite.
I don't know how to do it electronically, so I'm doing it physically. I completely agree with Martin's point there, particularly around the optimization angle, and that's a key area where AI can actually help us enormously, I think. The only thing I would say as a cautionary note, another cautionary note, which is AI is not going to solve all our problems for us. It's another tool, and it will be super helpful from the point of view of how we might move to more sustainable futures in various different aspects, rather. But of course, as Martin's just pointed out, it has its own issues. Well, in one of my other roles, I'm executive director of something called the Humber Energy Board. The Humber is actually the UK's largest centre of industrial emissions. We have more than between a third and a half of the UK's gas comes ashore. We've got the world's largest offshore wind farm, the world's second largest offshore wind farm, etc., etc. Why am I telling you this? We have about 10 companies so far and a number of others joining us. Some of those companies are actually competitors. And we talked about the collaboration word earlier on. So this is quite unusual when you start to get competitive organizations coming together under a sort of single umbrella, as it were, to try and work out how we can move something, an industrial cluster like the Humber, to a cleaner, greener future. Now, whether that involves electrification, whether it involves optimization of water, whether it involves carbon capture, whether it involves any of these sorts of things, hydrogen, for example, all of these things are possible. And again, we've said, technology in a sense is not really the issue per se. But how you might optimize the use of some of those tools and technologies around different organizations across a an industrial cluster that's 75 kilometers long and 20 kilometers north to south, for example, and some of them are competitive, well, AI is not necessarily going to be able to choose or make the competitive edge. And therefore, it becomes potentially a neutral tool that you could use to help with some of those optimization considerations across competing organizations. So that's one particular area where you could see AI potentially having a role.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add on the intersection between AI and sustainability before we move to some of the questions that people have popped in the chat bar whilst the webinar has been taking place?
I think I will just circle back to this being about the behaviours, the behavioural change that's needed, because yes, there's the technical skills around AI and needing to keep up to date with the most appropriate AI tools that a professional will need within their role or function to make the best decisions, but that criticality of being able to understand how to use what AI is telling us to make informed decisions, and to call out where it perhaps doesn't have all the answers. And so a really important illustration of that is a campaign on enabled emissions, talking about the role of big tech and all the claims that are being made. Well, obviously there's a lot of great work that's reducing emissions through AI, but it's also enabling emissions through it's enabling oil and gas drillings through the application of that technology. So the really fundamental skill for us within higher education, again, ensuring that graduates are industry ready, is to have those critical thinking skills to see the big picture of AI and its limitations as much as the opportunities.
Exactly. It all hinges on people. We keep coming back to this. Obviously, that's what we're here to talk about today. AI is a brilliant thing in many ways, and is going to provide us with lots of opportunities to meet net zero goals and in other parts of kind of business and global issues as well. But it's how we use it, as you rightly say, Karen. And we had an explosion of data being available decades and decades ago. How you use that data, and AI is the same, is the most important thing. So teaching people to be data driven, to think strategically. There's lots of other skills outside of just how to code something in AI or create an AI chatbot, which are all useful skills, but actually kind of more human-centered skills, and how you use that information are going to be really, really important to drive the net zero agenda forward. I'm actually, and gosh, when I leave this webinar, I've got a call about exactly that, how we can kind of assess people's AI capabilities, not just from a technical standpoint, but also from a more kind of pragmatic standpoint as well, about how we best use them. So happy to talk to anybody about that afterwards. Very exciting stuff. Thank you very much. We're going to now move on to some of the questions that have been submitted. And we had Corinne, who is in Leicester. She says she works with career practitioners, and she's interested in how net zero is affecting labour markets and how information about this is being made available. And we touched on this a little bit about how it's affecting.
Yeah, I'm happy to have a go on this. I mean, I think, so in terms of labour markets, and if we look at the big demands that the net zero transition puts on infrastructure, we have some really big shortages. We don't have enough welders to all the cable jointing, for all the renewables and the grid connections that are going in. We don't have enough project managers to project manage all of these. We don't have enough people on data analysis to be able to kind of, so there are some kind of big skills gaps, but it's not just net zero, because you think about the investment that's going into water companies, there's a lot. That's kind of all that kind of work as well. One of the things we've done is we developed something called the Green Careers Hub to provide a lens and an insight into different job roles and functions and their contribution to being able to drive towards this future. As we move towards electrifying surface transport and heat, we need just a lot more people with electrotechnical and electrician skills to maintain all of this. So there's really kind of big challenges. Some will be very, very place-based. So Jonathan's a really great example of the Humber and all the work that's happening there on carbon capture and storage, but that's not for everywhere. Whereas the installation of heat pumps, solar, being able to maintain those in domestic settings, etc., it's going to be like every town and a city in the whole of the country is going to have to have access to those skills. So I think there's quite a lot of planning that needs to go in there. The previous government had its Green Jobs Delivery Group, which started to map out all of that. I was part of that group when it first started. Unfortunately, it's been transformed into just a clean energy office for clean energy jobs. So it's kind of very, very focused on clean energy, which is fine, but actually it doesn't drive the whole kind of workforce transformation that we need in terms of the jobs and the skills and the career opportunities that arise from this. So probably I would say a slightly backward step, more focused, but not on everything that needs to be done in a relatively short space of time.
Thank you.
The other thing I'd add, I think, the report that's being launched this morning by CMI, actually, there are some really interesting links at the back of that report and some really interesting data that CMI themselves have pulled together in the report this morning. So that, I think, Corinne, will be tremendously useful in terms of sort of starting to shine a light on where to look for some of those data sources, not least, of course, the work that Martin's name-checked and the CBI's work with the EICU as well. I think the other interesting thing, just to pick up on Martin's comment there, one of the things we will have to safeguard against is to make sure that whilst there's this sea change in terms of the labour markets towards net zero or sustainable roles, we also need to protect the existing businesses that are still going to be in operation for some time. Mm-hmm. So what we can't have is everybody rushing away from being able to service a gas boiler to instantly just being able to do heat pumps but not gas boilers. People will need their gas boilers serviced for many years to come. They will need their combustion engine motor cars serviced for many years to come. They will need, refineries will need people to keep them safe and keep them operating for as long as we need lubricants and some of the other allied products that are not necessarily recognised. So that's another facet of the employment market in this space.
Exactly. We need to protect the labour market, the workforce that we've got at the moment, reskill, upskill. We can't only encourage people to go to the new renewables market that might be a little bit more enticing. We need to make sure that we protect workers in the industries that we've got, and we need to keep running at the moment too. Yeah, massive advocate of that. And thank you for mentioning the work of the CMI in the report as well that we're here to discuss. I mean, they talk a lot about the green skills gap, and we've done a lot of webinars in the past as well about green skills and what they are and how you develop them. So Corinne, please do look at the report, because Jonathan suggested to hear more about that as well. And we'll go for one last question before I will hand over to Matt Swarbrick, who's going to talk a little bit more about the sustainability qualifications. James Godwin. So James is working in London in the hospitality sector, and he's keen to understand our view on sustainability strategies and their effect on talent attraction for organisations. And we've touched on this in and out, and it is important to have a strategy to attract talent. It's a question I often get asked in interviews now. What is your sustainability policy, as well as DE&I and lots of other important initiatives? Does anybody else want to pick that up? So how can we attract talent, and what's our view on how sustainability strategies can do that? Yes, Karen.
For me, what's really important here is the visibility of the opportunity. So there's a lot of discussion around increasing skills-based hiring, and it's about organisations making it visible to talent that these opportunities exist. And so there is a strange situation in the labour market currently, whereby there's the LinkedIn reporting on the demand for green talent outstripping the supply, and yet large areas of the workforce wanting to break into these green jobs and not being able to find them. Mm-hmm. So there's immense opportunity for organisations, and the hospitality sector is actually really good at this, in terms of if we're looking at career fairs that will happen in universities, for example, where hospitality organisations will make it very visible that their organisations are committed to this, and those discussions will take place with students looking for those roles. But I think many other sectors could learn from hospitality in the visibility of that, the commitment of their organisations, and where talent can leverage this within their own career development.
Exactly. We hear that often as well, that people, where are these green jobs that we so desperately need? And people are scrambling to try and break into renewables businesses and contribute towards net zero in their next career steps, especially people at university, as you mentioned, but are struggling to actually find them. And actually, earlier on in the year, David Jones, who you heard from earlier, had a chat over a webinar with our friends at Energize Black and Engineer a Career, and those kind of organisations are exactly there to try and promote and encourage people into green jobs. So we need more of that. We need more visibility, as you said rightly so, Karen. Thank you. Any final thoughts on that question before we close and I hand to Matt? Yes.
Well, I'll just add that that there are so many opportunities out there for leaders to present a vision that's valuable and important. You know, we've had transformational leaders and authentic leadership concepts for decades now, and the vision tends to be something like, you know, a new phone or something in the consumables market. But we really have so many important and valuable directions where organizations could present a strategy to potential employees and really engage new talent in and involve new talent in those sorts of initiatives. So I think it needs to be more embedded in terms of the ambitions for the employees in the business, sometimes the strategy itself.
Yes, exactly. I think embedding things in touch points for employees, regardless of whether or not it's sustainability or anything else, brings it to life for employees, rather than just sending out a strategy on a slide deck that they probably won't read. Making sure it actually comes to life as part of their day-to-day is very important. So thank you very much for that, Marcus. And thank you to everybody. That's been a really enjoyable discussion to start our Wednesday mornings off. We covered a lot of ground, and I'm sure we'll all be keen to continue the conversation with anybody. If you connect with us on LinkedIn, please do reach out and ask any further questions. And thank you for everyone being so engaged in the comments and asking such thoughtful questions as well before the event and during too. So one last thank you to everybody for joining today, and to our expert panelists. And I will hand over to Matt Swarbrick now, who is going to close.
Thank you very much, Katie, and thank you very much for the experience and expertise of the panel. How do I summarize such a great kind of debate and panel? I think for me, as I was scribbling my notes around, it's really, you know, it's very key that it's a complex world we're living in now. And there's so much change every day. You know, we talk about AI, we talk about business as usual, we talk about diversity, we talk about sustainability. And it really kind of, from all the panelists today, it's understanding the why. Where is that gap? How are we going to upskill our workforce now, but also that future generation of leaders that are really going to be driving this? And, you know, it's very loud and clear that every business, every institution needs to develop a clear business strategy to drive this forward for sustainable change. You know, Katie very much said that it's a legal requirement by 2050. So it's a must have, and it's not a nice to have. You know, I think, you know, David very much at the very beginning talked about how we need to embed the training, the skills, the upskilling in our everyday work life. And I think that's a critical piece. And I think other comments as well, like from Jonathan, he was talking about better energy future. It's an environmental need. It's not just one individual going to be making the change. It's going to be a collective effort. And that upskilling, as I mentioned, on that current workforce, that clarity in why these leaders, we need to give them confidence in these green skills. And the future generation, Marcus, working with Bloomsbury, really talking about how they are going to be embedding sustainability within their quals. And I think that's a really key thing. That future generation, the Gen Z, the millennials, there's pressure on employees to really ensure that we can deliver this as businesses, as business owners, whether that's SMEs, large corporates. And that's critical to the economic growth. That is going to be key for us. And Martin really touched on that, how we're going to embed those knowledge, those skills, those behaviors to really transform that economic growth and drive sustainability. I won't go into the AI conversation. I think that was, I think for me, which Martin said as well, which made me chuckle a little bit, is we can't put AI back in its box. It's a tool, and essentially how we're able to deliver using AI to ensure that we have a better sustainable future for our future generations as well. And obviously, that's a key part in what we're trying to do at CMI. Obviously, by the report that has been launched at 9 a.m. this morning. And with that, we want to unlock that real progress. We must invest in building that sustainability capabilities for the leaders at all levels, ensuring that they're equipped to turn climate commitments into meaningful action. Effective leadership on sustainability now requires it to be treated, as I mentioned earlier, and all the panelists said, that core business strategy. Some very key stats, which I, kind of keep ringing in my mind all the time. 74% of managers state their organization place at least a moderate priority on net zero and sustainability. That sounds like a nice have, not a must have. 82% of managers believe that all managers will be required to understanding of net zero within 5 years. Really, that should be done now. And then 80% of managers agree that they benefit from having training on net zero and sustainability. And that goes back to, a lot of what the panelists are saying, that upskilling is critical for the generation in that workforce now, but also like the work Bloomsbury are doing with ourselves, ensuring that future generation have those skills before they enter the workforce. And, as we mentioned, on the back of the report, it's critical for us at CMI that we offer a sustainability leadership qualifications for education providers and employers, which provide pathways to ensure managers at every level gain that knowledge and those skills required to translate that net zero ambition into reality. And those are at level 3, level 5, level 7 throughout the piece. So I just want to thank again all the panelists for their great insights today. It's been really fascinating. I always learn a lot when we talk about sustainability. So I just want to say thank you. And once again, to everyone behind the scenes at CMI who made this report happen, this critical report that every business and every provider should really focus on over the coming years. So thank you from CMI. Hope you have a great day. Hope it's not snowing too much wherever you are in the country. And obviously, that just want to say thank you again. So thank you.
Don't forget, as a CMI member, you can find the latest management and leadership insights at managers.org.uk. If you're not yet a member, join our community to discover CMI Confidence with on-demand resources, our network of mentors, and industry-leading accreditations.